Welcome to Tea Time with Shayleigh and Amber. I'm Shayleigh Evans, and I'm a life coach for pets and their people. I'm a truth seeker, and it's my passion to empower others and to give animals a voice along the way.
I'm Amber Leidick, and I've been a performance horse trainer focused on behavioral issues for over 20 years. My current passion is creating impactful in-person and online events and collaborating with professionals to be on the leading edge of positive change in the horse industry.
We are two friends invested in theta healing, belief system work, animal communication, and any resources that benefit human-animal partnerships. So turn up the volume and let's dive into the Great Awakening, brought to you by our horses. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. We have not recorded an episode for a while, so we're a little delulu. We have been talking a little bit before this episode, and there's just a vibe going on right now, but we're super excited to be tuning in with you guys. First want to mention that there has been a lot of turmoil in the East Coast with this hurricane, and our hearts go out to everyone that it's affected. It's kind of like tough, but also a blessing to be in a space where, we've been able to donate and send love and not be involved. And not be like, affected. It's a weird space to be in. And I know a lot of people that are feeling that way right now where they're like, yeah, I sent donations and I've sent goods but it just doesn't feel like enough. And um yeah, it's wild. It's wild when a natural disaster comes through, but it's really so beautiful too, just to see how community comes together and people. I feel like when natural disasters happen, it reminds us of like our ancestors, honestly, where we lived in communities and we took care of each other, and like neighboring communities came to take care of each other, and it just kind of like puts faces to the people behind the screens because that's how we connect to people so often. So as tragic as it is, it's like beautiful in a way too. But yeah, just hoping that things can kind of turn around for them soon.
Yeah, it is a reminder of that. I know when we had all the flooding here a couple years ago, it was wild because everything stops and you realize that nothing really matters at like the end of the day. Like all of that stuff is just stuff that can be like destroyed so easily and also replaced so easily, but they're like reminded of things that cannot be replaced, and it just puts your priorities in order, I think.
Yeah.
So
Well, I have been on this meditation. Amber called it a meditation bender, and I just like love that for some reason. And I have been meditating for hours a day. Like, I have to tell you guys that yes, I'm still doing appointments and living my day-to-day life, but like I have been waking up at like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning so that I can meditate for like 2 to 3 hours straight before my appointments, or like I will meditate for like an hour before bed, and I'm doing it like every single day. I got hooked on Joe Dispenza, and like it's funny because he said something the other day, and I can't remember if I ever said this on the podcast, but do you remember when I was telling you that I like don't believe in anything, where I was like, I do believe in source energy and I believe that like people can heal, but like I don't actually believe in anything. Like I know that my mind is so powerful that if I don't believe in it, it's not gonna work, and I can create that in like any scenario. Like I can kill the belief in any scenario. And I was running with Arlo. One of the things that's come out of this meditation thing is that all of a sudden I'm a runner now, you guys. Like I have never liked running in my entire life. Like I did cross country in middle school and high school because I just kind of felt like I needed like an outlet, but I've never loved running. And this is like an inspired action that has been happening to me and through me every single day for like a month now. I can't miss it. Like I have to go every day. It's so weird. And I can just run for like forever. The other day, Arlo and I went to this trail that I had never been on before. I had no idea how long it was, and I just ran, and the trail kept going, and I just kept going. And I swear, like, Arlo would like look at me anytime there was like a turnaround. She's like, "We still going?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Are you good? Because I'm good." And we just like went for like 5 or 6 miles. And yeah, it's been kind of interesting. But Oh, I got off on a tangent because I feel like I was gonna say something different right there. But anyway, been doing this meditation, and what I've noticed is it really like dips you into gratitude if you just kind of like sit, if you like get yourself to sit every single day for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, and you really just like connect to the energy around you and connect to the energy of your body, and you do it deliberately. It's wild how you start to become insanely grateful for life in general, insanely grateful for the life you live and the people you have in it. And even the things that we perceive as adversities are like such blessings. And I wrote a post on Facebook about bot flies because I was like scraping bot fly eggs off my horses. And I was like, why does this creature even exist? Like, it causes so much destruction. And what does it even do? And then I just had this realization in that moment, and it's starting to come like intuition, where when I see something and I'm considering it an adversity in that moment, because I've been practicing like a higher vibrating frequency every single day for like weeks on end, it has created this awareness in me that is like so aware of when I become unconscious in a moment. And it's cool because instead of going down that path and thinking for like hours and hours and hours about it or whatever,
Mhm.
and then at the end of the day you're like, but I'm grateful, but I live a good life. And it's like comes from your mind. This is like, no, the fact that I'm bitching about this bug means that like I have horses and I have this property, and it's like such a cool thing. And I'm just noticing it like so in so many areas of my life where, I had like a fruit fly situation in my sink. All these bugs, all these pesky bugs around me just bugging me and helping me find gratitude for the things that I have and the people that I have. And yeah, it's wild because I haven't like, had not that I felt like I was a complainer before, but I haven't had that much to complain about, so, like, I also haven't been really having any conversations with people, like, my conversations with people are so less, like, with my friends and stuff because I just don't really have anything to talk about. Well, I've been into, like, politics and, like, listening to, like, bunch of just random stuff lately. Um, but it's like I don't have as much to talk about because I'm just kind of, like, being, which is fascinating.
Yeah, and also I feel like a lot of people connect over complaining. We're just
Yeah.
really wired to see the negative and stuff and the discomfort in our lives, whether it's like situational or physically or whatever, is something that we're wired to like notice. And then we talk about it because we notice it, even though we shouldn't be talking about it because we know it's going to make it worse. And so, but I don't think most people are in a place where they're actively working on that stuff. So it's really easy to connect with people like that. And so when you're not doing that, people sometimes, well, first of all, you don't want to connect with people that are doing that while you're not, because you're so aware of it. And then there is, it's like, what do you say? Like, and it was interesting because I watched a reel or something on Instagram and it was talking about how he said there's people that you can count like on two hands. Like I have like 10 people that I know that at any point in time, if I had an emergency, I could call it any point in the day and they would all show up for me. I have great friends in that way. But he was like, but how many people can you call and celebrate with and say this really cool thing happened to me without them feeling like you need to dull it down or that they will be jealous or there will be like it'll come off as if you're gloating or boastful or whatever. And he's like, they're much smaller amount of people that you can do that with. And so it's interesting because it's kind of like the same idea. It's really easy to connect over problems and like receive support. But it's like when you just want to talk about how good stuff is, sometimes that bumps up against people and makes them like, okay, I'm glad your life is so great. And you're like, no, it's not about that. It's like, it's not perfect, but like I'm not choosing to marinate in my problems and make them worse. Because I feel like a larger portion of the planning of this event that's happening pretty quickly here was the first half was me being plungered out of all of my I went from fully like almost delusional in like a good way about the outcome of it, but I got so attached to what the outcome was going to be. So the moment that it started looking like it wasn't headed that direction, all of my old stuff like rose to the surface, and all of the things that I was like, oh no, all of my doubts, all my fears, all my things. So then I spent a good chunk of the time in that. And then in the last like 3 weeks, all of a sudden it's like I'll feel myself focusing on that. And I'm like, oh no, let me focus on how many days we have left and how many. And every time a ticket gets sold, I celebrate and I take them to the light and I like work on that individual. And it's like, but I'm so aware of when I start to slip into that other stuff. And I think it's because I had to go through that like process of like, fuck yeah, to like, oh God, to like, okay, there's a balance here that I'm supposed to be learning. And so yeah, but it is much harder to connect with people over the celebrations than it is to say, oh, there are all the things that are going horrible in the world right now. And also, it's like, but what can you do about it in this current moment? Like things are what they are, but from here in this moment, what can we do moving forward that could potentially support and make it better? Because we can't change what is the isness of things, but like, you know, so but sometimes it comes off as insensitive to people. They'll think, well, you don't know
Mhm.
what it's like. And it's like, I understand that, but I also understand the bigger picture, which definitely a lot of people don't. So it's hard for them to hear that. So you have to be careful.
Mhm. Yeah, I think we all fall into like we all react, we all get emotional, we all are experiencing things at a human like at that human level. But I think the question is like how long are you going to stay in that? And the more you and it's like you know, dedicating that to your that awareness to yourself is so tough because it's so easy for our bodies to like want those chemicals, want what we have always given it. And so you recognize when you're reacting, and in that moment, it's like, well, how long am I going to do this? And sometimes your body is like, yes, it feels so good to be miserable. And then it takes you with it. Like, so it's a true dedication practice to be like, no, I actually care more about how I feel than anything else. And I'm not going to fall into these subconscious patterns. And life is going to give me all of these different things to test that. Oh, that reminds me of what I was originally going to talk about. Um, how I was saying that I don't believe in anything. And I went through that whole period of like, I don't believe anything. And I was even running the other day and thinking that how like I created a belief system that if I eat a certain food, it's going to do this to my body. And some things that I tell myself, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but like sometimes I can tell myself something one time and it's like an instant belief. Like I'll be like, if I stop drinking alcohol, I will feel more intuitive, more bouncy, more better in like many ways or whatever. And it's like instantly, yep, that sounds like, and I don't know if that's just because in the moment my higher self is like, this is what needs to happen in order for you to reach the next belief that like you need or whatever. But
Mhm.
it's kind of fascinating. So I was listening to Dr. Joe and he was talking to somebody about it was like a podcast or something. And he was telling people that sometimes people meditate just to believe. And I was like, "What?" I'm listening because he talks about you can't meditate to make something happen. Like as soon as you make something happen, you take yourself out of your heart and your body and you're like in your thinking mind again. So like if you're meditating, you're thinking about winning $1 million and you're like trying to make it happen, it totally defeats the purpose. And we all know I'm a trier. I'm like someone who's going to like meditate it to death until it happens or doesn't. And so that really hit me and I was like, "Oh man, like I don't know really how to get out of the trying to the like I don't know how to balance the visualization and the feeling without like trying to force it to happen." And then he said later like, "Yeah, people meditate to believe because they believe that there's a God. They believe that meditation can work. They believe that it can heal people. They see all the evidence. And this is me. It's like I watch the stories of transformation. You see all the evidence. You truly 100% believe that it can work, but not for you." And I was like, what? Like, that's totally what I'm going through right now. So I've totally switched my focus to like, I'm meditating to just believe that something like from the unknown can happen like to me or like good things can happen to me on like the deepest level, and it's fascinating because that has opened a lot of doors for me in not trying to force it to happen, because I think sometimes when we want something to happen, yeah, it's like what you were talking about with clinging to the outcome. That's like how I get to very clingy. And it's like if you truly are going to allow what you've manifested into your vibrational field to come to you, you have to release that attachment. And that's like the hardest part sometimes.
Yeah, remaining connected to the feeling of it and detaching from the outcome. Um, it's tricky. That is the hardest part. I was the conversation I continue to have with my friend who's going through like a breakup, a break, not a breakup thing. And she keeps coming to me because there was that similar situation that I had with who I'm with now. And I was like, you literally have to get to the place where you don't actually, it's so tricky. You care so much, but then you don't care. You care more about your experience. And you, it's almost like, and when I was explaining, it's like I was single for a year and a half, whatever, didn't talk to anyone, no talking to boys in any way, shape, or form. Like I was like fully invested in myself. And the level of peace you reach when you're there, finally, after all of my 40 whatever years, had I never been single like that, was like, I know for sure that nobody's gonna come in and create something that is going to be better than this. You know what I mean? So I'll always know, like, the moment I feel like that's happening, then I cling to, wait, I know what it can feel like. And I feel like I can detach from the outcome of anything that doesn't serve me in that way. You know, when we're speaking to the feeling the good feelings, not getting sucked into the complaining, and then the detaching, I think that's what it was. It was like, I know the one thing I can gain certainty over is my own experience and how I feel. And I know that I can feel all of those feelings in meditation around that, and I can get my needs met in that way through that. Um, so I don't need the physical things to happen for that to happen, but like super
Mhm.
cool when it does. And so it's such a tricky, that's the hardest part is the detaching from the outcome and going, well, if it happens, it happens. But like, I want it to happen so bad.
I
So
know.
like the phrase that I think helps me stay detached is if not this, then better. Like I say that to myself so often when I can feel myself getting like worried that something's not going to work out or like it's not going to look like I thought it was going to. It's like I know that things are always working out for me and I can always see it in hindsight is 2020. But the phrase, if not this, then better, literally saves my ass from getting too sucked up in it. Because I know when I look back at all the things that I was like mildly disappointed or really disappointed, it always got better after. So I just continue
Mhm.
like soothe myself back down out of the shitstorm that I tried so desperately to get myself into. Because it feels so good to be stressed out and overwhelmed and all of the rush of adrenaline that comes. It's like a cracky jug. Um, so yeah, if not this, then better. If not this, then better. If not this, then better.
It's so crazy though, because when you start looking into the science of it, it literally is like a drug. Like you have given
Mhm.
your body those chemicals for years and years, and then you start to tell them, like, no, you're not going to make these chemicals anymore. You're going to make different chemicals. And literally, your body like, it will start creating scenarios for you where it's like, no, we have to be anxious right now. And I'm like in the middle of, I actually think I'm finally to the other side now after a month of meditating like this. But there would be, like, multiple days in a row where I would sit down and my body, like, as soon as I would go to relax, my heart would get all tight and it would immediately be like, "No, you're anxious right now." And I'd be like, "No, I'm not." And, like, anyone who's had anxiety knows that, like, when that starts to happen, like, your stomach flips, your heart gets tight, like, you're trying to breathe deep, shallow breaths, and I was like, I can't breathe. Like, I can't take a shallow, I have to like breathe fast because my body was literally trying to be like, you're adrenalized right now. And it's fascinating because you can't reason your body out of that with your mind either. To get to the other side of that. And I think that's why we talk so much about meditation and we're always like sliding it into people's like mental DMs. We're like, hey, you should meditate more. Like, because stopping that thought is so important, and the only thing that got me to the other side of that was really, like, feeling that energy and then choosing to try to feel nothing and then feeling that energy and choosing or just like sitting in it for a second and like seeing if it could move or whatever, but without conscious thought. That is the hardest part because I found myself doing that this morning where I was meditating and I started to feel a sensation in my body. And Jane Pike talks a lot about this too with the nervous system. As soon as you label it, it like becomes something. So I found myself like feeling that feeling and I almost was going to like label it in my mind. And then I just decided to soften into it and it immediately went away and I went into like this super deep meditation. But it is wild how we immediately, because we our futures are defined by the past. We're constantly living in the past and creating our current reality on an unconscious and conscious level. We are our bodies are literally like yeah, I don't know, it's wild. Our brains are telling our bodies that we're anxious and like literally I'm sitting in a room that I'm safe in and just like trying to breathe. But how often do men, because I know a lot of people with anxiety and it's like people who having are anxious kind of we know that I'm like a this. Have a lot of energy. And with that, I feel like I'm like, what do you even call this? With that comes a lot of energy. And like with that energy, like an outgoing person who is like very bubbly and stuff, but also has had anxiety, I do not like deep breathe at all throughout the day. And so now that I'm like trying to train my body that like, yeah, we need to take deep breaths and slow down and stuff. Like, when you talk about the pendulum swing, it's so crazy, and I don't know why I'm going into all this on the podcast. Maybe someone right now is, like, thinking about meditating, and they're like, "I don't know if I should meditate," and I'm like, "Do it." But so I went from that hyper anxious state, and this is what I was telling you right before we got on the podcast, is now like my body's searching for like the deeper breath and stuff. So now I'm like a slug on the other side. Like I'm trying to like keep my eyes open and like when I walk, my dog's down my driveway, I'm just like meandering around and I feel like my body's going to find the new normal, but we hear all the time about how we live in an adrenalized state and everything is like rushing and you don't even realize how fast you're going to nowhere. But now that I'm, like, in the slow state of it, I'm like, "Holy shit," like, my body's, like, kinda crashing from, like, how adrenalized it was, and most of us are just gonna keep here's the sad thing. We have this tool available to us for free. All it takes is a little time, getting up a little bit earlier, going to bed a little later, whatever the case may be, it's available to us, it's within us, it's for free. And most people are not dedicated enough to themselves to do it, and they will continue just living that adrenalized state until they get old and sick.
Or their body says enough is enough.
Yeah.
Or their horse says enough is enough.
That's true.
I was thinking about also my same friend where she works out. She's very fit. She's like goals for when I'm 50. I would like to be as fit as her. Like she's ripped. And but she's like super successful in business and all the things and all the things. And I was like, what happens when you're in stillness? And it was like, oh, well, I meditate. I'm like, so when horses would come in, and I was actually thinking this is weird. I was thinking about this either this morning or last night. I can't remember. It was last night. Um, and I remember the first thing I would do with them is I would take them into the round pen and just turn them loose and stand in there and usually talk to the owner if they were there. But what the first goal that I ever had was to identify if they needed to feel safe being still or moving, because it felt like it was usually one or the other. And because in the being of the thing that they were more worried about was where the actual healing needed to happen. And like, it's like, if have they shut down, then they need to know it's safe to like move and express. But if they're running all the time, it's like they need to know it's safe to just be still and feel the things, and in a way where no one's asking them of anything, and all of the stuff can come out, the biting, the kicking, the can come out, all the expression can come out there. And it's so interesting with people too. It's where the people that are really addicted to the adrenaline and the programming that they already have, where the body literally thinks, well, when I was in something similar, this is what I did and I'm still here. So I'll continue to do this because this must have been why I'm okay. And so the subconscious programming is so strong and so efficient and so great that you don't have to think about it, right? But it's like doing the opposite. So finding that balance of, well, that's when you went on your bender in the beginning, and I was like, but you're like moving still, right? Like you're like moving, right? Like don't get sucked in and like slug out and never return. So, but that's probably why your body feels so inspired to run now, because it's like it's a healthy balance where it's like now I need movement, right? Now I need stillness. Now I need movement. Now I need stillness. It's like
Yeah.
it's finding that like finding those needs to be met in like a healthy way, not in an addictive, like toxic-ishy way with yourself.
Mhm.
Because I feel like people will work out because they're anxious. Like I feel better now. And I'm like, right, but like if you're getting to the root cause of why you're anxious first, then the working out actually becomes healthy, because if you are working out in an anxious state, I feel like you can actually do more harm to your body sometimes because of your adrenals are going, and then also, and then the cortisol kicks up. You're like, why am I not losing weight? And you're like, well, where are you at? That's why the belief stuff is like so freaking important in everything you do, because
Mhm.
it literally just like creates your entire existence and reality. And I wish everyone knew that.
Dude, it really does, and it's so crazy because, like, yeah, I do like the Kundalini yoga, but sometimes I'll catch myself being like, "Oh, am I doing it right?" Or I'll like look in the mirror and I'll be like, "Oh God," like it's just and your mind takes over, and that's not the space that you want to be in. And I have really been diving into like truly loving my body because, like, it's houses my soul. Like, how cool is it? My little soul chose to jump into this body, and like the body has served me well. So why would I ever say anything that's not loving to it? And my mantra has been like, is this loving to me or not? And that's just been like such a helpful thing. But yeah, finding that balance is so interesting. And the belief systems too. I think I had like my very first release of a belief system subconsciously that I've like ever had. Like I've released a couple beliefs through like you helping me or through Rochelle helping me, but mostly I feel like I reason with them in my brain and then they kind of don't go away and then I like have a session with Rochelle. But I was meditating the other day and I got into like my sacral chakra or my solar plexus or something. And I was like so into it. And I felt like I like didn't even have a body anymore. And I could just feel like the vibration of that energy center. And I just heard this voice that said, like, I release some like I don't even remember it. It was like I released this and it wasn't responsibility, but it was like a longer word. And when I came out of it, I tried to remember it and I just felt my spirit guides being like, you released it for a reason. Like you're not like stop
It's
trying to
gone. It's
yeah,
gone.
like stop trying to find it again. And because I have not had any back pain, I know I've talked to you about my back pain for a year now because I literally couldn't even lift up my leg to put a sock on. I'm like, why am I 30 years old in a freaking 90-year-old body? Like this is so bad. And I got into that energy center and it was just like I release this and it was a belief system and in that moment I remember feeling like holy shit, I didn't recognize that this was under. Oh, it was because I was focused on shame, where I was like, maybe shame is in my body because, like, I feel like a lot of women shame themselves. We all have certain characteristics that we don't like about our bodies, whatever. So I was like, well, I want to release that. But there was something under that that my body just knew about, and it just like lifted out of me. And then I was all sad at the end. I was like, but what was
All this time, all this work, all this effort and meditating, and I don't even know what it was. Such a so it doesn't matter, it's gone. I know, but I want to know. Maybe I didn't want it to be gone all the way.
it? Well, and that is definitely my mindset, just like as a person, how I'm like such a deep diver and I want to close all the loops and know all the things. And I was talking to a friend of mine because she's like, yeah, once an experience is done for me, like it's done. I don't really like she's like, if someone, betrays me or whatever, and I'm not interested in like carrying out that energy in my life, it just is like done and over. And I'm like, "Yeah, but what did you do to attract it?" And, like, what I'm it's like I wanna go down all the rabbit holes of, like, "But how was it serving you? And what did you learn from it? And what did you do to attract it?" And, like, all these I love that the rainbow is, like, over your third eye.
The
Um,
what?
yeah, you can't
Oh,
see
no, I was
it?
looking at my pictures on you. Oh, it's
Oh,
probably my little dingling, my
yeah, and
my
you just have,
dongling.
like, a little, like, rainbow circle between your eyes. Yeah, but she was like, yeah, once I'm done, I'm just done. And I was like, what? But that's what I love about like all the different like parts and pieces and components that we can learn about, because if I didn't know my numerology or my astrology, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm just like super anxious and I need to feel safe, and like I would make up a whole story around it. But it's kind of cool how my astrology is like, you are someone who deep dives and you're going to learn everything you can about something and blah blah blah. But something just came into my mind. Is our astrology really written in the stars, or is that a compilation of beliefs for like lifetimes and lifetimes that like someone, like, did someone start out writing about astrology? And this is something I'm thinking about because I'm reading this book on alchemy right now called The Red Lion, and it is like so fascinating. It's written as fiction, but like it's this story about a man who wants the red lion, which is like the elixir to eternal life, and he goes through 5 lifetimes to find it, and he like in the first, I'm only like halfway through the book, but like in his first life, he meets this man who he believes has the elixir, and the man is kind of like a he's a healer, a spiritual healer, and he has already gone through all the stages, and he tells this man like, you can't have a mortal life. It's going to ruin you. Like you're too young, your soul's not ready. And you're too emotional. And like he talks about how emotions are like the killer of the soul, because they go from like being greedy to being worried to this and to that. And like they're just um why did I start this story though? I'm like getting too
Astrology.
lost in the story. Oh,
Did
yeah. So he's an alchemist and he talks about like the stars. Like he talks about Libra and Taurus and like Aquarius. And he, um, it's fascinating to me because in the book, so the book was written in 1940 and banned by the Hungary government and then republished in Germany in the 80s. And I feel like you should read it because it's actually pretty cool.
that sounds fun.
So yeah, so he's like this alchemist, and he told like the boy in the beginning that he like looked at his chart, or he like wrote he's but here's what's fascinating. He like looked at his eyes and wrote his chart out. And then he was like, "Oh man, I hate, like, this is terrible. I can't save you from this. You're gonna live." And all the guy wanted to do was live forever. Like, he was like, how do people go through life knowing that they're gonna die? Like, you're just in this, like, endless, like, living to die. And, like, he was fascinated by immortal life because he was like, I have so much to learn. I have so much to do. Like, how is all of this just gonna end? And he was obsessed over it. And he was like, I'm not gonna be able to save you. And in the first life, it's kind of fascinating because he kills the man because he was so upset that he wouldn't give him like the elixir to life. So he freaking kills him. And then then he turns into I can't remember what he called it, but the guy who he killed was like, I can't save you from this. You are going to wake up in the gates of blah blah blah, and like let's hope you make a different choice. And he killed him, and then he ends up in this space, and he's like with all of his like it literally sounded like too when he took this elixir. I was like, "Oh my god, it sounds like psilocybin," because he's like all of a sudden I started seeing all these demons around me, and like he just started like, or like maybe he was on acid, I don't know, just like fucking tripping out on all of these things, and recognizing in that moment. So like everything came together in that moment of the truth of it, where he was so deep in his ego, he was so vain, he was so emotional, he was so greedy, like all of those lower vibrating experiences are like trapping him forever until the end of time. And then at the end of that chapter, and this is as far as I've gone, so I don't know what happens in his next life. At the end of that chapter, he finally gets put into like this well. This sounds dark and it kind of is, but like it's also very fascinating because it's like truly a story about the ego. And yeah, it's fascinating. So he gets put into this well, and he finally accepts the fact that he's like never going to die. Like he's like, "Yep, I did all of this to myself. I guess I'm never going to die, and I deserve to be," he didn't say like I deserve to be here, but like it was like the unwavering acceptance of like everything that he did. And then he was dead. And then the next chapter that I haven't read yet is that he's in somebody's womb. So
Oh,
he's like born again. Yeah.
oh God.
I know. I'm gonna have to keep you guys posted in case you don't read it because it's a long book. But yeah, I sent it to Celeste and Tara and I was like, you guys have to read this. It's so witchy.
Fun. Ugh, good times, good times.
I know. I don't know how I got on that tangent. I don't even know why I started that.
Something about astrology. Oh, because in your stars to
Oh,
go
wait,
deep
back
deep
to my
diving.
question. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Back to my question. It's so funny how you do this for me in all of our lifetimes.
I do this for a lot of people. Like Doug will do the same thing where he's like, "Really?" He's like, "Wait, what was I saying?" And I can go like right back to where like the beginning was, and I was like, "This, it's my sticky notes." Like
I know. I
here.
don't know how you do that. It's very fascinating because I just get like fully immersed in like the picture in front of me. And then I'm like, well, that original seed is gone. I don't know where that came from. Do you think that astrology is actually written in the stars? It's something that just like almost like fate or destiny? Or do you think that it has been created on like belief systems for years and years and years? Because I don't know about other people, but I know that when I like got told my astrology and we looked at the astrology, it almost like it felt true to me, but I don't know if it felt true to me because there was like an image with the words was something that resonated with me and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's true for me." And this is like
Mhm.
what I'm going to follow to an extent. Or is it just like a belief system thing?
I don't know because it's just been built on for so many years, and people are told this is what you are like when you are born here, and it feels really aligned and true. But is it yeah, I don't know. We should ask Denise.
Yeah, we should. Because it's like, yeah, is it true? Because you're moldable as a baby. So if you were born as like a Libra, but then as a baby you were told all of the Taurus characteristics and you were
Mhm.
like, you are definitely a Taurus, and like you were under
Mhm.
the illusion that you're a Taurus, would you in fact grow up with that energy, or would your true self like call you home because it's written in the stars? I want to know
Yeah.
that.
It's definitely a Denise question.
Well, we'll keep you guys posted. We'll let you know what she says.
Yeah, we will. Um, great. That was great. That was fun. It was a good episode back.
Yeah.
Um, where should we should end it. My T is crying. What's going on out there?
Thanks for
I
hanging out with
just
us, you guys.
Yeah, if you guys want to, let's talk about we can talk about our membership. Need to start talking about that again.
Oh,
We have a
yeah.
little membership. It's called Shayleigh and Amber's Tea House. We used to just question and answer once a month tea parties, but our tea parties are evolving into something very different. And maybe they'll be different every month. I don't know. But we have that. We have a Facebook group that's private that we are active in, and it's like a little family in there, and it's so much fun. We have
Mhm.
guest podcasts that you guys get to come on and ask questions and get them before they're released to the public. um there's that, and then there's also the in-person slash you can watch the live feed, the Art of Equine Alchemy happening in like, oh, maybe I'll just release this early. We'll let this one go early. It is happening on the 18th through the 20th of October. We just added a live feed option. So if you guys are feeling like you want to join, it's Shayleigh and I, and then Celeste Lazaris, Tara Davis, Catherine Lowry, Dana Lovell, Steffi Spielopper, and Ellie O'Brien. And it is going to be in Carmel, California. There are some, I think there's two VIP tickets left, which that would start on the 17th. And then there are general admission tickets and then all of the tickets for the live feed. So I'll put the link in the description of the tea house and also the Art of Equine Alchemy. Okay. Well, I hope you guys have a spectacular day. We could also, since we did talk about it, we could add in Stacia's what not GoFundMe, but she has a Venmo that she's collecting donations for North
Mhm.
Carolina. And we can add that into the show notes as well. So if you guys want to donate or help in any way, she is managing that, and it's going to hay and supplies and other things. So we'll put that in there as well. If you guys are feeling the vibe of wanting to help out.
All right.
All
See you
right.
guys.